All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
It's spooky season.
It is officially spooky season.
And we are ready.
We are so ready, and you know what goes perfectly with spooky season?
Let me guess.
Hit me.
Halloween specials.
Halloween specials. Oh my gosh, yes. And we've got a great one to take apart today.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. You guys know how much we love to unpack a good mystery, and this time you asked for terrifying legends, so buckle up.
It's really fascinating how these stories, some centuries old, still have the power to creep us out, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. For this deep dive, we're pulling from a recent episode of, a podcast all about terrifying legends from around the world. And let me tell you, researching this one had me sleeping with the lights on for sure. We're going to cover everything from ghosts to monsters to creatures that'll have you double-checking your locks. And we're kicking things off with a legend that hits close to home, the Bell Witch of Adams, Tennessee.
Oh yeah, that one's a classic for a reason.
Right. Picture this. You're a farmer in the early 1800s. Life's simple, tough, but predictable, until you start hearing whispers coming from the shadows of your own house. Things start moving on their own. That's how it started for the Bell family. And it just escalated from there.
Yeah, it's like it starts with unsettling noises like knocks, chains, dragging, even what sounds like disembodied screams. And then it turns into something way more menacing, targeting John Bell, the head of the family.
It's like something straight out of a horror movie, right? And to make it even creepier, the entity, it actually identified itself as Kate. Some say it was a witch, maybe summoned by a vengeful neighbor looking for, payback or something. But witch or not, the stories about her abilities are what make this legend so freaky. Imagine being messed with, not just by weird sounds, but by something that can talk, move objects, even curse you.
And what's really unsettling is how long it went on. This wasn't some one-night thing, This was years of reported paranormal activity. And it wasn't just the Bell family who experienced it either. Other people saw it too, like their neighbors, even Andrew Jackson, supposedly.
Whoa, really? Andrew Jackson? See, that's what gets me over 200 years later, and people are still debating whether this was a real haunting, a hoax, or something else entirely. It makes you wonder, what could explain that kind of intense, prolonged paranormal activity?
That's the beauty of legends like this, right? More questions than answers. It really makes you think about what we don't know. Speaking of the unknown, how about we hop across the pond to England? We've got a different kind of haunting waiting for us there. The story of Borley Rectory. It's often called England's most haunted house.
Dude, if you think those creepy old houses you see in movies are bad, wait till you hear this. We're talking centuries old, in Essex, England. This place, it practically radiates spooky vibes, phantom footsteps, whispers, things moving on their own, enough to make your skin crawl.
It's your classic haunted house story, but with a ghostly nun thrown in the mix. Legend has it, she was a young woman who fell in love with a priest. Forbidden romance, right?
Yeah.
As punishment, they say she was buried alive in the walls of the rectory. And now her spirit, it can't find peace. It just wanders the halls.
Imagine the stories those walls could tell. But even without words, this place made itself known, let me tell you. Remember those whispers and footsteps? Well, it escalated. Things being thrown across the room, creepy messages on the walls, even phantom bells ringing in the dead of night.
It's the kind of place that makes you want to sleep with all the lights on. One of the things that's so intriguing about Borley is just how much weird stuff happened there. People who lived there actually wrote down all the things that happened, meticulously, like Reverend Lionel Foister and his wife, Mary Ann, who lived there in the 1930s. They experienced it all, physical attacks, poltergeist activity, you name it. Their stories are a big reason why people are still talking about this place today.
Just like the Bell Witch, the best part about Borley Rectory is we still don't know if it was really haunted by, actual ghosts or if there's some other explanation we haven't figured out yet. What do you think?
I don't know. That's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes not knowing, that's what makes it really get into your skin. Makes you use your imagination.
You don't understand. She's behind you.
But hey, from a haunted house in England, how about we journey to the Canadian wilderness? I'm talking vast, icy, and home to the legend of the Wendigo.
All right, deep divers, buckle up because this one is a wild ride of folklore and, primal fear. Forget haunted houses. We're talking about a creature born from what it takes to survive in the wilds of Canada. The Algonquin tribes, they knew those unforgiving lands better than anyone. And they believe that when you're pushed to the edge, like starving, desperate, and you resort to cannibalism, something monstrous takes hold.
And not monsters like a bear or a wolf or anything like that, The Wendigo's a whole other level of terrifying. It's this gaunt, skeletal thing with a taste for human flesh. You can almost hear it out there. You know, the howling wind, the crunch of snow under its feet. It'll make you question your sanity just thinking about it.
You know what really got to me? It's not just about being hunted by this thing. It's about what it represents. The potential that we could become the monster. It's that fear that deep down we all have that darkness inside of us, and if we're not careful, it could consume us.
Yeah, exactly. It gets to you on a deeper level, you know.
Yeah.
The Wendigo isn't just some mindless beast. It's the physical embodiment of our darkest impulses. What happens when we're pushed too far. Makes you think about how thin the line really is between who we are and what we're capable of.
And that's what makes it even scarier.
It really makes you think about what lies dormant inside us all, doesn't it? That potential for darkness. But how about we switch gears a bit? From the frozen wilderness to, well, the halls of power. Our next legend is about what happens when the monsters, they aren't hiding in the woods, but walking among us. We're talking about Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess.
Okay, so we've gone from a vengeful spirit in Tennessee to a haunted house in England. And now we're diving into 16th century Hungarian nobility. Talk about a range. And guys, this one is messed up. We're talking about a real person, a countess, accused of torturing and killing hundreds, maybe even thousands of young women. Imagine the rumors, the fear surrounding this woman. It's the stuff of nightmares.
Elizabeth Bathory's story, it really highlights how sometimes the scariest monsters, they aren't the ones under the bed. They're real people living their lives with these twisted desires. I mean, some historians argue about the specifics, but her reputation as the Blood Countess, that's stuck. It's a dark part of history.
It's the motive that gets me, you know. They say she believed bathing in the blood of her victims would keep her young and beautiful forever. Talk about extreme beauty routines, right? It's a chilling reminder that the desire for youth, for power, it can corrupt anyone, especially those in power.
It's a timeless fear, though, isn't it? Getting older, losing your looks. I mean, people have been trying to cheat time for centuries. It just shows how powerful those desires can be.
Okay, but here's the thing. With the Wendigo, even the Bell Witch, there's this element of, I don't know, the supernatural, right? Creatures and spirits. But Bathory, she was real, a flesh and blood person who did horrific things. It's a whole different kind of disturbing.
It makes it more real somehow, doesn't it? That idea that we're capable of such things. And the truth is often more terrifying than fiction. But you know what? How about a little change of pace? From the castles of Hungary to, well, the 1990s, get ready for something completely different than Chupacabra.
Oh man, the Chupacabra. This thing is I don't even know. You've got ghosts, mythical beasts, and then you've got this. It's like something out of a B movie. First reported in Puerto Rico, this thing is said to prey on livestock, draining them of blood.
Imagine being a farmer, going out to check on your animals and, well, use your imagination. Not a pretty sight. What makes the Chupacabra so intriguing is that it's a modern legend. You'd think with all the cameras and smartphones nowadays, we'd have answers, but nope. Just blurry photos and a bunch of stories. It's like the more we don't know, the bigger the legend gets.
It makes you think, doesn't it? In the age of information, when we can Google just about anything, we still love a good mystery. Why do you think we're so fascinated by these stories, whether they're ancient legends or modern day sightings? What is it about monsters and mayhem that keeps us coming back for more?
That's a question that's been around for ages. I think deep down, we want to understand the world around us, even the scary parts. It's like we're trying to make sense of the unknown.
It's true. Think about it. Late night campfire stories, horror movies, even just telling spooky stories with friends. We get this rush of adrenaline, but it's safe, controlled fear. It's like a roller coaster for your brain.
Exactly. And it's not just about the rush. These stories, they're like warnings, teaching us about the dangers out there, real or imagined. They remind us that we need each other, that facing our fears is important, and that giving in to our dark side, well, it never ends well.
Like the Wendigo, right? It's a warning about greed and letting our baser instincts take over. And the Bell Witch, at least for me, it shows that doing wrong, seeking revenge, it can have consequences we might not expect. But it's not just about the lessons, is it? These stories, they're windows into other cultures, other ways of seeing the world.
Absolutely. They're passed down through generations, shaping how people think and act, connecting us to those who came before. It reminds us that no matter how different we may seem, we all share that fascination with the unknown, that need to believe in something bigger than ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, a little fear of what might be out there, watching us from the shadows.
And sometimes those fears, they're more real than we'd like to admit, right? Like with Elizabeth Bathory, monsters aren't always hiding in the woods, are they? Sometimes they're in plain sight wearing human faces.
That's a sobering thought. These legends, as fantastical as they can be, they remind us to be careful, to question those in charge, and to never ever stop fighting for what's right.
But hey, let's not forget about the chupacabra. Still out there doing its thing. Even with all our fancy technology, some mysteries are still unsolved. Creatures lurking in the shadows, making us wonder if there's more to this world than we can even imagine.
Now, that's what I call a chilling thought. Maybe we haven't figured it all out just yet.
It's weird, right? We spend all this time diving deep into these spooky stories, these creatures and legends that honestly kind of freak us out. You'd think we'd want to steer clear, but
We can't get enough of it. Why is that? You think it's like our brains are telling us to run, but we just lean in closer.
totally. Like our instincts are saying, danger, danger. But we're over here like, tell me more about the creepy crawly thing with the glowing eyes.
I think it's about control, maybe. When we're watching a scary movie, reading a spooky story, whatever, it's a safe way to get that adrenaline going.
Like riding a roller coaster, you know? You're strapped in, you're safe, but your body still reacts to the drops, the speed. Maybe some people just get a kick out of that feeling more than others.
It's possible. There's definitely a biological element to it. Some folks are just wired to be thrill seekers. Their brains are like dopamine factories when they get a good scare in. But there's a psychological aspect too, you know?
Oh, totally.
Confronting your fears, even in a make-believe setting, it can be therapeutic almost. Like a way to deal with anxiety, become a little more resilient.
All right. When you think about it, a lot of these stories, like the Wendigo, they tap into our deepest fears. Fear of the unknown, losing control, the dark parts of ourselves even.
And maybe by facing those fears head on, even through stories, we feel like we have a bit more control over them.
Exactly. It's like exposure therapy, but for your brain. A little dose of fear to help us deal with the big, scary world out there.
Right. But it's more than just facing our fears, though, isn't it? There's a social element to this whole thing, too. We watch scary movies together, tell ghost stories around a campfire, and get those chills as a group.
Oh, 100%. There's something about sharing those spooky experiences, those nervous laughs when the tension's high, then that relief when it's over. It's bonding. It's like these shared experiences, even the terrifying ones, they remind us that we're not alone. We've got each other's backs.
And the power of a good story. Don't underestimate it. Whether it's an ancient myth or a modern-day creepypasta making the rounds online, these stories, they tap into that need we have to understand the world, to explain the things we can't explain.
Right, like those old myths that popped up to explain things like storms and earthquakes. We might not need those literal explanations anymore, but they still get to us. They speak to those deep down anxieties, that fascination with what's out there, that maybe, just maybe, there's more to this world than we can see.
Exactly. And maybe that's the biggest thing we can take away from these terrifying tales. As advanced as we are, with all our tech and knowledge, there are still mysteries out there, things we can't explain. And that sense of wonder, even a little fear, that's part of what makes life interesting.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world's most terrifying legends, we're left with a question, aren't we? Why do we love these stories so much? The ones that give us chills, keep us up at night, the ones that make us question what's real and what's not. Is it the thrill, the need to face our fears, the comfort of knowing we're not alone in the dark?
Or maybe it's something else entirely. That's the beauty of it all, isn't it? We don't have all the answers.
That's for sure. But one thing is for certain, these legends, from vengeful spirits to bloodthirsty creatures to the monstrous things that humans are capable of, they're going to keep fascinating us, freaking us out, and making us think for a long, long time.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that no matter how much we learn, some things will always remain a mystery. And that's okay.
It definitely keeps things interesting. Well, folks, on that note, we'll let you get back to whatever you were doing, hopefully not encountering any Wendigos out there. Keep diving deep, but be careful. What you wish for, you never know what you might find lurking in the shadows.
Well, that's about it for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, stay spooky,
Stay spooky.
and we'll see you next time.
See ya.